Hello, I'm back. I've already recorded 3 miracles that I think were critical in my life, and I want to continue and add on to those 3 miracles. And I want to stress that these things happened while I was, shall we say, dyed-in-the-wool fundamentalist. I believed the Bible as the Word of God, and I believed that it was infallible. So I directed my life that way, and those 3 miracles happened during that time. And there were 3 other events that happened during that time that are not of the same category as the miracles. And to describe what a miracle is, according to the dictionary, an event in the physical world that surpasses all known human or natural powers and is ascribed to a divine or supernatural cause. So let's just say it's ascribed to a supernatural cause. So what happened during my walk as a fundamentalist is, I would say my life was spared at one point. As I was serving the Lord with all I had, I was aware that there was this devil around that wanted to stop me from doing that. And so one day I was in front of the post office in Nelson, and there's a concrete curb there, and that is directly behind the phone booth. And I was phoning my wife from downtown, and I saw a Chevy pickup truck, about a 1951, and an old guy pulling up to the sidewalk right in front of the phone booth. And lo and behold, he didn't stop. He drove over the sidewalk and smashed into the phone booth. And I should have had both my legs crushed, but as it were, I was laying on the sidewalk, unable to move, and I couldn't figure out how I got from the phone booth onto that sidewalk. And basically, I wasn't injured except for my legs were in shock. So you could say that is, possibly beyond the natural norm of things. There is another time when I was building a roof rack on my little Datsun pickup truck, the little tin can that they were back in the 70s. Anyway, I was building a roof rack in the front yard because I needed to haul lumber because I was a contractor, and I was making a living as a contractor. So anyway, I started building this roof rack in my front yard, and I received a message. And it was a different message. It wasn't something that I thought up. It didn't come from inside. It came from outside. It came from the air. And it was very discernible, and it was very calm. And it just said, not audibly, but in my mind, it said, build it strong. So I sort of went, oh, okay. And it said it again, build it strong. So I did. I built it, I built that thing really, really, really strong. I doubled up everything and used 3/4 inch plywood and bolted it down. So anyway, I went on my contracting life, and I ended up doing a concrete pour in Rossland by hand under a basement with someone else who was supposedly my partner. But anyway, I was left on my own to trowel this thing from, we started early in the morning, and I was there till almost 4 in the morning trying to smooth out the concrete. But anyway, I was alone, and I headed home from Rossland. And there was the old Tagum Bridge at the time, before they built the new bridge. And I was very tired, and before I was approaching that bridge, that same voice, that same thought said, stop and rest. And I didn't. I said, hey, come on. I mean, I'm not talking, I didn't talk that way, but I thought that way. And I said, I'm just up on the hill there. I'm going to keep going. And so I did. And so as I was crossing the bridge, I blacked out. My eyes were open, but I saw nothing. And my little Datsun hit a curb and flipped on its roof, on the roof rack that I built strong. And I'm certain if I didn't build that rack strong, I would have ended up with a broken neck. I'm a tall guy, and it's a little tin can cab. As it was, the motor was still running. I shut it off, and Western Auto came along and got me out and flipped the thing over and took it up there. And I ended up pounding the window out because ICBC wouldn't give me more than $400 for it, and I drove it for a few years after that. But the point is, how did that spirit, and I say it was a spirit, know that I was going to flip my truck 2 years hence? So where's this element of time that it's a question, where's this coming from? How much have we invented? There's one more instance that I feel is important, and I'm saying this because to me it's important, because of our human condition, which is, shall we say, challenging, and it appears to be getting more challenging. So these things happening are an area where you might pay attention and might get some help from the universe, if I want to make it really simple. So at the time I was involved in a commune in the Spokane Valley, and I used to go out there a lot of time, and I neglected my family because I was so intent on, serving the Lord. And anyway, one day I was coming from the cabin. It was about mid-afternoon, and I crossed the Tagum Bridge. At this time it was the new Tagum Bridge. And a message came to me and said, go home. Same message. And I go, no, go home. So I did. I went home. And I went in the kitchen, and I used to smoke drum tobacco, so I rolled a drum and poured an instant coffee, and I was sitting at the kitchen table thinking, well, why was I told to go home? And then my nose picked up smoke from the back room where I had plugged in an electric heater. It was wintertime, and there was laundry hanging on the wall from string and nails behind the electric heater, and these were in flame, and the flames were going up the wall. So I said, oh, that's why I was told to go home. And I rushed in there, and I got the rags out, and I got the hose out, and I doused the flames. I didn't have any insurance because it was an old log house, and they wouldn't give me any insurance, and I didn't have a steady job. So for some reason, these spirits, I'll call them spirits because I have no other thing, there's no other way I can explain it, have helped me. So anyway, I don't know if I should go any further. Do you have any questions?
No, I'm just very curious about your story.
I'd like to continue it.
Yeah, go ahead and continue. That's great.
So what happened after all of these events and all the politics and running for Christian Heritage Party and Family Coalition Party and running for school board 3 times, and that's all another story. But it was all going against, shall we say, this great big ship we call society, the way it was going, and I was alarmed by it, so I was fighting it. And I was fighting it with everything I had. And I went to school board meetings for 6 years, and I even went so far as to tell the board one day at a meeting out of frustration that it would be better for them that a millstone were hung around their necks and they were drowned in the depths of the sea than that they should defile one of these little ones. And well, I thought it was pretty important to say it, but I didn't feel like they took it seriously. So I eventually gave up on that. But as this time went on and as I did my campaigns, my faith in that Word of God as it was written began to erode. Because I read things in there that just weren't up for the God I know, the God that saved me. This God, would never do what the Bible says this God is capable of. This is an invention of man. This is a projection of our human condition and trying to rationalize it somehow, trying to deny that we're like responsible. Somebody else is responsible. Somebody else is going to control what we do and how we do it. And somebody else is going to rescue us. I used to believe that in the rapture, that, at some point when things get really bad, I wasn't pre-trib and I wasn't mid-trib, I was post-trib. Mm. And as what I look at today is pretty close to post-trib coming on pretty strong, and I thought that I would be raptured. I would be taken off this earth, and all the bad guys would get rocks falling on them and they'd plead and blah blah blah. It hasn't happened, and it's a real nice thing to grab onto, but it didn't happen, and I don't believe it's going to happen.
Was there some truth that you felt in that story, like that you misinterpreted maybe?
I found some truth in it. Yes, the truth was, like, we're all looking for an escape route from our human condition. And that was my escape route. Other people have different escape routes.
It was like your ego?
Yeah. I mean, like, regardless of what we think of the ego, we function with it whether we like it or not. It's always there. It depends on how much credence you give it. But, there's two other definitions I'd like to just interject at this point, and one is truth. It's defined by the dictionary as conformity with fact or reality. And the other one is reality, something that exists independently of all other things and from which all other things derive. So when I started to shed my fundamentalism and saying, well, that's not going to happen, and there's a few other things. I used to think that I could be taken up like Elijah, into the clouds, and I didn't have to go through death. So, I was working on it big time. And all of these things kind of, after putting like 30 some odd years into it, kind of to unravel, which left me in a state of shock. It left me in a state of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. I had it major, because my whole life what I had done and what I had tried to do up till that point was unraveling. So here I sit now, recalling some of that and wanting it to have some meaning and some good. So it wasn't done in vain. And that's my goal. I've come across certain fables and myths, and some of them are concerning Jesus, I mean, I don't doubt that he existed, and I don't doubt that possibly he was crucified, and along with about 2,000 other people, because Pilate was big on crucifixions. In fact, there was a joke circulating that there weren't any trees left to crucify people on. So, but he perhaps was crucified. And there's a story of the resurrection. It's a nice story, and but do I believe it verbatim? No. Did he rise? Yeah. I believe that. And because I believe that, I have hope for us. Because I always thought, well, here's this guy, he's the Son of God, he's got the deck stacked in his favor. How come we're supposed to do what he does when he's the Son of God? And by some trick, he wasn't aware of that. Well, it's a bit of a stretch, to the rational mind, and I tend to think I have one still. So, so these things start falling apart. And then the other one was, which some people are not going to like because they're believing in it, and that's like a lot of people in the virgin birth, which, to me, I didn't come to these conclusions cheaply. I took long 2-year courses with a fellow named Charles Jeans up at Learning in Retirement at Selkirk College on the history of how the Bible was formed and the history of those times. And so I became convinced, and I read about a dozen books on the subject, that no, he wasn't born of a virgin. That's not to say that my faith is all of a sudden gone. No, it's actually stronger because it gives me more belief in the possibilities of being born normal. And I think these myths that are put out there are very harmful. In fact, they're not truth, and they're not reality. So here we are, day after summer solstice, and this is what I'm putting out. And I'm putting it out to give hope that we may be inadequate, and we obviously are inadequate, and we are failing miserably regarding our home here on this planet. The only way we're going to succeed is through inspiration and, if I can go so far, divine intervention of some sort. So that's my message. Anything you want to add?
So are you able to better relate to people who are very fundamental in the way that you were in the past? Are you able to relate?
No.
Right.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
They think I've lost my faith,
I see,
and
right.
it's a very shocking thing to see yourself in another person 10 years ago.
Yes.
And mouthing the exact things that you were mouthing. And then having to tell that person, and one was a very dear friend who supported me when I was running for Christian Heritage Party, and I said, he says, you don't believe in the rapture? I said, no. I don't even believe in the virgin birth. And, I said, I shouldn't really say this because I don't want to dampen your parade, but I did say it because, if there's nothing important, what do we base our existence on? Do we base it on our personal reality? This is the plague that's going on right now in the world. We have adopted our own personal realities, which really, in many cases, don't have much to do with the reality.
This is why Joseph Campbell was always so strong about how we have to create our own myths that take us beyond what we see here into the higher realms to understand the higher realms better. And he said that so much of religion has confused us by us misinterpreting our own metaphors. And
religion just about destroyed me.
yeah.
I could go back from the time I was an altar boy. If we really want to get into it, I was an altar boy for Father Monnier in Marsden, Saskatchewan, and he was later convicted of molesting older boys, and he died of a heart attack in Florida in a jail. He was my priest, and what he did after Mass, and I remember it very clearly, is he left an open bottle of wine on the counter that smelled good, and he said, if you want some, have some. So he got it. The boys tanked up, and they did certain things.
Brutal.
And this was reality, right?
Yeah.
But I buried that all. I buried it because, at that age, you just bury it. But it comes up. At 76 years old, it comes up.
Do you know that Joseph? No, it was Carl Jung said religion is the ego's defense against a spiritual experience. So some people have this spiritual awakening experience, and their ego hardens, and then they try and limit it and call it religion.
My message is don't get stuck. Like I was stuck in fundamentalism. And I could still be stuck in fundamentalism to the destruction of my family and my friends and a lot of people. But thankfully, I got unstuck. But it's a lesson, Don't say whoa when you're stuck. Say giddy up. Giddy up.
Nice.
Because if you don't, you're just going to remain stuck.
Yep.
And I don't want to go out of this life stuck.
That's a good message.
Well, anyway, that's my message. That's my story. That's my song. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you benefit from it. Thank you.
Thank you.